The number to call again if you want to be a part of the conversation is 702-257-5396. Again, that number, 257-5396. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your side of this. Why don't we start off with Tony? Tony, I believe you're first up in the Vegas take. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, Tony?
Hey, man, what's going on? No, I'm 100% behind you on that. But the other thing a lot of people don't understand, and I talked to a friend of mine who's a cop, when they're wrestling with someone, they're saying, well, they were mad because he outfought them. These cops aren't 100% on this guy to take him down. They're guarding their weapons during this. So you got 2 or 3 cops. They're pretty much fighting one-handed. Because you get a guy like this scrambling around, you don't know what he's going to grab. So it ain't easy as if they think it is to take someone and hold them down like that.
Well, I agree with you. I agree with you there. Maybe you could help me out with this. I'm really struggling with this, and I'm holding a lot of anger inside me, sir. And the reason why I am is I don't understand these people out there. I don't care what the color of their skin is. I don't understand these people out there that are saying that this man really did nothing wrong, or at minimum they're saying, well, he probably shouldn't have scuffled with police, but he was running away from the officers. One thing that his attorney and the family fail to mention, and I know the family's grieving, I get it, but what they don't mention is this guy pointed a taser and shot it at the officer. Listen, if he was just running away from the cops, I would be on their side. I would say the cop was not justified. But he wasn't doing that. He had a taser in his hand, and then I hear idiots on social media saying they should have used another means. What other means? The only other weapon the guy had on him was a gun and mace. Mace wouldn't have done any good. I mean, what was the other? How could the cops defend themselves at that point? One of the officers didn't even have a taser on him. I don't get it.
No, there is no defense. It is what it is. It happened, unfortunately, but there's no other way around it. That's just what happened.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, Tony. I appreciate the phone call.
In the case of a situation like this where the officer happens to be white and the person that was shot happens to be, African American, when you don't look at the actual merits of the case and when you don't hold someone accountable and you assume that they did everything right solely because of their color of their skin and you assume that the person that shot them only did it because of the race of the other person, you are being racist. That, to me, is a classic case of racism. That's what we're seeing all over the country right now.
Further, if this guy was white and the officer was black, would the black officer have been fired? I think it's a fair question to ask. Number to call, 702-257-5396. Make no mistake about it, folks. This is not the Ahmaud Arbery case, which was a lynching. This is not the George Floyd case, which was murder. This has nothing to do with those 2 other cases, and I'm sick of it. 702-257-5396. Go to Juan. Juan, you're next on the Vegas take.
Hey, what's up, Juan?
Hey, how you guys doing? I'm
great.
Calling in here. Yeah, I'm agree with you guys about this case. I mean, for some reason, the laws have been put in this country and every part of the world. You have to obey the law. This guy wasn't a private property, for starters.
Correct.
He was drunk and making one to run from the police. You have to obey the law. This guy would obey the law. It would have happened. But this was violating the law.
Yeah. And by the way,
want to go to jail again.
Can I just bring up what you just mentioned, because that's also very important. He was not on public property sitting in a car sleeping. He was on private property. The people in Wendy's, I would imagine somebody in Wendy's called 911. They had the absolute right to call 911. The officers had the absolute right to give him a breathalyzer test, and the officers were well within their power to arrest him. They did absolutely nothing wrong, and this idiot, and I don't care if he's dead, he's still an idiot, dead or alive. This idiot decided to scuffle with police, throw punches at police, grab one of the officers' taser while running, turn around and point it at one of the officers and fire it. And I cannot believe all the people in this country that are defending his actions and going after the cop. For the life of me, it disgusts me.
They're totally wrong. Burning that building, burning a private property, really, that lady or whoever did it is nuts. Honestly, how much is going to cost? But
and not only that, they looted gas stations, and there was a line of protesters on the interstate blocking off traffic from all directions shortly after that as well.
It's because what happened in Minneapolis, now they think they got the right to do whatever they want to do. What we're going to do, we need the protection of the police. We need.
And I think you're right, Juan. Juan, you're absolutely right, and I want to add this too. You can support the Black Lives Matter movement and support police. It is possible to support both. I think the majority of the people in the Black Lives Matter movement are good people for a good cause, for the right cause, and I think the majority of cops are good people as well. Let's take one more phone call before we go to break. Ron, you're next on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
Good morning, gentlemen. I had a situation on the 10th of June at the Wendy's on West Tropicana, 333 West Tropicana. I went in there, I ordered my hamburgers, and I have an ace bandage on my leg. I have a pull muscle. And I walked a mile and a half to get up there, up a hill. So I walk in, I order my hamburgers, and I'm tired, and it was hot. So there was a chair, an opening there in the dining area, just at the beginning of it, right 4 feet away from the beginning of here, and it's not taped off that you can't sit there. So anyway, I sat in the chair because I was exhausted. I wasn't sitting there 20
Ron, I got 30 seconds, my friend. I'm up against the break.
The manager came out and rushed me out.
How was your hamburger?
Till it was done. The woman behind the counter giving the food out, she says, "You're not supposed to be sitting there." I said, "Well, then give me my money and I'm leaving." She says, "I won't give you your money. Get out of here." I said, "What are you trying to act like an idiot for?" She said,
All right,
Ron,
I'm sorry you had to. I'm sorry you had to go
for
through that, Ron. No, Ron, I'm sorry you had to go through that, my friend. I hope your hamburger was a good burger. But here's what we're doing: we're taking phone calls in regards to
Was it
the
a Baconator?
Rayshard Brooks shooting. And my question that I am asking the listeners is this: do you agree with me? Rayshard Brooks deserved to die, in my personal opinion. Some people might not like that; they'll think it's insensitive. If you are dumb enough in society to steal an officer's taser after punching him, and then pointing it at an officer and shooting the taser. And in our society, there are still idiots that defend this guy. Well, what do you think? We're talking about Rayshard Brooks, the shooting that took place in Atlanta in front of a Wendy's. This man was drunk. He gets the breathalyzer test. He fails it. Then police try to arrest him. He scuffles with officers, resists, throws punches at officers, takes one of the officers' tasers, runs about 50 to 100 feet, turns around, points the taser at one of the officers, fires it at one of the officers, and there are actual people out there that are saying the police are not justified when one of the officers shot and killed him. I don't blame the officer for doing that. How can you attack the officer in this situation? It makes no sense to me, but there was just a press conference, and that press conference was with Rayshard Brooks' family and the attorneys who want to make money off of these types of situations. They're also scum of the earth. So one of Rayshard Brooks' family members, her name is Tiara Brooks, happens to be the cousin of Rayshard Brooks. Here's what she had to say in the past few minutes. Have a listen to this.
Rayshard Brooks, the name that may start a protest tomorrow or another day in the future. However, the man himself no longer has a future. He can no longer live in the present nor plan for tomorrow. No matter what the different points of view are ours of his death, we must all agree to one fact: the fact that he was killed by the Atlanta Police Department. The fact that someone's cousin, brother, uncle, nephew, father, companion, and friend is no longer in this world. The trust that we have with the police force is broken. And the only way to heal some of these wounds is through a conviction and a drastic change with the police department.
All right, so the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation is 702-257-5396. Again, that number is 257-5396. One thing I'll agree with her on, yes, he is dead, but he's dead because of his own actions, not because the police did anything wrong. That's number one. And number two, a conviction. What did you expect police officers to do when he turned around like the moron that he was after stealing the police officer's taser and shooting it at an officer? What did you expect police to do? One of those officers didn't even have a taser on him because he took it. Again, the number to call, 257-5396. Let's go to Jack. Jack, you're first up on the Vegas Take.
Hey, what's up, Jack?
Hey, good morning. Thanks for taking my call. I put 24 years, 10 months inside the prisons and then out on the street as an agent. So I've seen both sides. Listen to three words: ability, opportunity, and jeopardy. And that's how you call balls and strikes. Did he have the ability to inflict great bodily injury or death on this officer? Did he have the opportunity, and was that officer or his partner in jeopardy? The answer is yes on all three accounts.
I agree.
Shoot or don't shoot, you shoot. Okay?
Yep.
You're absolutely right about he's got his taser, he incapacitates him. Now both officers are in trouble.
Right, right.
So, I'm so tired of people that have total ignorance. Like, you're a smart guy. You're putting it out there the way it should be put out there. But people trying to make comments and decisions that have no clue what a split-second decision means.
I'm going to tell you something, sir. Sir, if I can just interject, and thank you. And I agree with you. Let me just say this: even if I'm not a police officer, if I have a legal firearm and somebody points a taser gun at me and I think they're dangerous, I'll shoot them too.
They are getting shot.
I'll shoot them
Absolutely.
too.
Right, and you'll be right.
Yeah.
And one thing that's not factored in, did he get shot in the back? Yes. It was also very dark outside. He may have been trying to shoot him in the leg, and he may have missed. That's a possibility as well. But talking about convictions and the entire Atlanta Police Department being restructured over this, that to me this is a total indictment and a personal vendetta. Not a personal vendetta, but at this point it's a national vendetta against police officers.
Well, and I'll tell you something. If this
guy and Rayshard Brooks, had he gotten away, he still would have been back in jail in probably a couple of months. His sentence still would have been extended for resisting arrest, even if he got a DUI. I mean, so you're talking about how he doesn't have a future. The guy neglected his kids, attacked his kids. His sentence would have been extended regardless.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that,
his future wasn't great.
Yeah, I just
under the circumstances as it was.
I understand,
based on who he was as a human being.
Let's get back to the phone calls.
what he had done in that particular situation.
I don't want to go to what he did in the past, though. I want to focus on what he did that night because I think that's what's really important here. 257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Carlos. Carlos, you're next on the Vegas Take.
What's up, Carlos?
Yeah, hi. Well, thank you for taking my call. Well, I disagree with what you're saying. That first of all, I think Rayshard was wrong for pointing the taser, but a taser is not considered a deadly weapon.
Okay, let's go with that. Hold on, JD. Let's go with that for a second, Carlos.
Okay,
so hopefully I can.
Not considered a deadly
Carlos,
weapon.
I get it. Carlos, I get it. Just hear me out for a second. Just try to listen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what a taser does do, in most cases, is incapacitate the person. Okay,
right.
You have a criminal that is clearly not thinking right. He's incapacitating an officer. That officer has a gun. Who's to say? You're telling me that you don't think that officer is in grave danger if he's incapacitated? You just had the guy punch the officers, scuffle with them, take their taser away. Who are you to say that guy wouldn't have taken his gun?
Okay, well, first of all, a taser is not even effective when you're moving.
You're
number
not
one.
listening to me.
Number two is I don't agree with his actions, but at the same time, it makes me. Why is it that we hear about these race issues amongst, and I'm not racist by all means, but why is it that we only hear this from African Americans? Why don't we hear of Hispanics or whites being shot like that with cops as well?
So I am not, sir. I've talked about race and race relations for weeks, and I agree that there's police brutality out there and there's systemic racism. But that has nothing to do with what took place in this situation.
Okay,
you're not listening.
So why is it that if let's say you and I got in a fight and I'm running, and you shoot me, you're going to go to jail because
that's not what happened, sir.
Sir,
that's not what happened, and I'll explain why. If he was just running and they shot him dead, I would agree with you 100%. Not justified. That's not factual, sir. I'll tell you what got him killed, and it's not that hard to figure out. After taking the officer's taser, he turns around, points the taser at the officer, and fires. You are not understand. And by the way, your excuse
I saw the video.
Well, obviously, when you say he was just running, you're not explaining what happened. I am, and you're not.
The officer had his weapon out already.
It doesn't matter whether he had the weapon. He didn't shoot until after he turned around and fired the taser. Why don't you understand that?
He didn't.
So what should he have done then?
Shot him in a non-lethal spot.
Okay, there's where you're. Hold on. Now I'm going to talk about what your stupidity is, sir. You don't understand how officers are trained. They're trained to shoot at center mass. They're not trained to shoot somebody in the leg. They're not trained to shoot somebody in the arm. And idiots like you don't know what these officers are trained to do. And then you start this hyperbole.
Yeah, but that's why
he should have. You don't, sir, you don't understand the way officers are trained. They're trained to shoot at center mass. The idea that when the guy is running or when he's trying to get away from police, the officer should have aimed for his leg is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. And I'm going to go to the next caller because you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. 702-257-5396. Let's go to Scott. Scott, you're next on the Vegas Take.
Hello?
Scott, go ahead. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
How you doing, gentlemen?
Good.
Good, Scott. How are you?
All right, man. I'm the one that called you about 2 weeks ago. My brother-in-law's an ex-police officer, a retired police officer, I should say. And I let you guys know I have a CCW, and I got to tell you right now, everybody says, well, taser's not deadly. Yeah, it is. See, if that thing hits you anywhere than your upper torso, if it hits you in the face, they got barbs on them, hit you in the eyeball, it shoots 50,000 volts into you, you're dead. Somebody points a taser at me and fires, I'm going to shoot them back.
It's not just that, sir. And by the way, I agree. But, sir, it's not just that. You had a guy who called up who has no idea what police Now, I'm not a he says, why didn't you shoot him in the leg or the arm? It's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life. People who have opinions on this case have no idea how officers are trained, and they don't understand that when you point a weapon, or in this case a taser, at an officer and shoot it, that puts the officer or officers in grave danger. Why is it so hard for people to understand that?
Because they've never been in a situation where they've been shot at themselves. Because I've been fired at, I've been in multiple gun battles.
I appreciate that.
Well, and I would actually argue, that it's hard to understand because they are focused on the race of the particular officer who was the one that shot the other person. I think that is being factored. I think there is some racism taking place, and there is a bias against police officers. There's a cultural bias against police officers, and callers like the one that just called in have that.
But Scott, Scott, I appreciate your experience, but I can tell you I've never been shot at. I've never been a police officer. But
I'm just saying,
I don't think you have to. I don't think you have. The point I'm trying to make is, I don't think you have to have police training or in law enforcement to have a little bit of logic here to understand this guy deserved it.
I'll tell you this: if I was in that situation and I was passed out drunk in a Wendy's drive-thru, and a cop came up, and I attacked the police officer, I punched him in the face, I took his taser, I ran away, and I shot him, I would expect to be shot too. And I am a very, very clear-cut white guy. I think anyone of any race would have been shot under those circumstances. And when you don't take the actual merits of the case into consideration, you just assume that the only reason he was shot was because he was black, that is total BS.
257-5396. Let's go to David. David, you're next on the Vegas Take.
Hey, what's up, David?
Hey, Brian. Hey, I'm actually surprised I agree with you on something. No, this was absolutely a case of you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. Like, I've been really, really inebriated in my life, and I've never lost my faculty so bad that I would try to fight a police officer and steal his taser and aim it at him. I mean, it's just, I agree with JD, too. I don't think it matters what color you are. I happen to be mixed white and black. I've been a mistake for both in my life. It doesn't matter what color you are. This was clearly simply a guy was doing stupid things and was threatening a police officer. And like you guys have said, tasers are a real threat.
I agree.
The police officer had had every right to shoot. I do think that our problem is our bias against police officers is so strong culturally right now that it doesn't matter what the circumstances is, people are going to be upset. And
Exactly. You're totally right.
David, I agree, and I always say if you want police officers to respect you, you also need to respect them. It goes both ways. This guy did it to himself. Rayshard Brooks got himself killed. Appreciate the call. 257-5396. Let's go to Eugene. Eugene, you're next on the Vegas Take.
Hey, what's up, Eugene?
Good morning, Brian and JD. How are you all doing today?
Good.
Doing great.
Okay, there's a mistake that I noticed that you and Brian Kilmeade has made this morning. You all said that it doesn't happen if someone is found drunk or incapacitated in the car.
That's not what I said. That's not what I said. No,
okay,
sir.
Just give me a chance to speak. Just hold
but I didn't say that, though.
Just give me a chance to speak. Okay. Because it's very interesting. because I was just on the computer about 3 months ago, and I was actually on there, and I was looking at situations like that. It's actually up to the officers. There's officers.
It's the officer's discretion.
Go,
Yes,
okay, so just listen. There are officers that have let people go. For instance, it was a white gentleman. He was drunk. The police came on the scene. It was very cordial. They asked him, did he have somebody at home, a wife or something, that could come and get the vehicle because they could not let him drive, which they were correct. Then a neighbor came out. They asked their neighbor about him. The neighbor said he's a good guy. You know, he's all right and everything. And they asked the neighbor to take him home and then for him to come back after he clears his head up.
I agree.
So
Let me interject, Eugene. I get what you're saying, Eugene. I agree with you. The officers, it's at their discretion. They could have let him go. Now, my opinion on that, I don't think we should let anybody go if they're driving drunk. That's okay. Hold on.
And they don't have to let him go.
Let me just make this point. That's not what got Eugene. Eugene, with all due respect, first of all, I'm not Brian Kilmeade. Number one, I bash Trump every day. Can't stand him. So let's just be clear on that. Number two. Okay, Eugene. Number two, driving drunk is not what got him killed. You know what got him killed? Taking the officer's taser, turning it around on the officer, pointing it at the officer, and shooting a taser at the officer. Make no mistake about it. That's what got him killed. Do you understand that?
Yes. And actually, I seen on the video where the one police officer got stopped and the other officers came on the scene. The other one was so inebriated, the officers that came on the scene had a real hard time, and they almost had to hog tie him because he got into a fight with the arresting police officers.
I can't speak to that, sir.
And they did not shoot him or kill him.
Understood, sir.
They had to actually drag him out the car, and it was all white officers.
Well, I can't speak to that.
The white officer was fighting them back because he was so inebriated.
No, listen, I can't speak to that, sir. What I will speak to is what took place in this situation, and I'm telling you right now, it wasn't driving drunk that got this man killed, which is bad enough. It was stealing, taking the taser out the officer, pointing at him and firing. Let's take some more phone calls.
Put it this way, Eugene. Had this guy just let himself get arrested and get his second DUI, we wouldn't even know who he was. This wouldn't be national news because he would not be dead.
I agree. 702-257-5396. Maria, you're next on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
What's up, Maria?
Hello?
Yes, Maria, go ahead.
Hey, Ben, you know what? I don't agree with you on a lot of stuff, but on this one, I agree with you 100%.
Well, I'm certainly hearing that a lot lately, but that's okay. Well, go ahead, Maria. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, the thing is that a lot of people are saying, why don't they just let him go? But if it happened to a drunk driver and he killed somebody, the family would be really upset on that.
I agree.
They would want justice.
I agree.
The cops were trying to try to get him. If I drive drunk, they're going to arrest me. They're going to put me in jail, so I don't hurt nobody.
And by the way, who's to say if they let him go, he doesn't go back to his car 20 minutes later and start driving again? I mean, it's absurd. Thank you, Maria. Appreciate the phone call. I'm glad we agree on something. 702-257-5396. Let's go to Darren. Darren, you're next on the Vegas Take. Darren. No patience for Darren. Who's next? 702-257-5396. Butch, you're next. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, Butch?
Hey, how you doing?
Butch, can you hear us?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay,
great.
Go ahead, Butch.
Okay. I'm a retired police officer, 20 years, and I trained police officers for another 20 years. When that gentleman did what he did, he committed several felonies. Assault on a peace officer with intent to commit a violent felony. Now you have a felon that's trying to escape or get away from them out into the neighborhood or wherever. You can't let that felon get away. You don't know what they're going to do when they get out into the neighborhood. The fact that he took the officer's taser, that right there is intent, shows intent to commit a felony or cause injury or serious harm to a police officer. No, the officer was justified. This gentleman that came out, well, not gentleman, but this guy, when he decided to fight, it was all over.
And let me just say this. I agree.
Right.
I agree with everything you just said, Tony. And let me just say this. I've been on social media, and I've been saying exactly on social media what I'm saying on the radio because that's who I am. I'm honest. I'm going to speak my mind. And I have a few people calling me racist. Let me tell you something, folks. If you agree with me, and I think most logical people would that don't interject race into this, and you think this guy, Rayshard Brooks, deserved to be shot for his actions, and somebody calls you a racist, throw it right back on them and call them a racist because it's absurd. Let's go back to the phone lines, 257-53.
Good call, Butch.
257-5396. Let's go to Tony. Tony, you're next on the Vegas Take.
What's up, Tony?
Hey, Anthony, how you guys doing?
Good.
Great.
Hey, I'm I'm pro police. Me as a like I said, I started thinking at 9. So, and it's a police officer that saved my life, and so I'm alive because of police. But I think that this issue is going to come down to Atlanta police policy. Now, the mayor said the police violated the policy. The chief said the police violated the policy. Investigators are now saying, yep, they violated policy. So this is going to be about policy. All this emotional stuff you guys are doing. People like me who have been in war, who have had to fight, who have had to holster my weapon. Once it has stopped, once I feel it stopped, I have to, even in fighting. We have people in jail right now, Marines in jail, for firing their weapons, even at time of war. So I think that this is going to be.
Can I ask you, though, something, Scott? Can I ask you something, sir, if I may?
It's Anthony.
It's Anthony.
Oh, I'm sorry, Anthony.
Go ahead.
My apologies. What is a police officer supposed to do?
Well,
hold on. Let me just finish the question. When an officer doesn't have a taser on him, and the suspect who just threw punches and got in a scuffle points a taser at the officer and shoots the officer with a taser, what is the policy? Now, here's my opinion, and then I'll let you answer, sir. Okay. My opinion is, if the George Floyd stuff wasn't going on and we didn't have protests throughout the country, I don't believe the investigators would say that. I don't believe the police chief would have said that. And I don't believe this officer would have been fired. That's my opinion.
Well, you can't say that, Brian, because these are honorable people. I respect police. The only thing that we have as a society is our police. They're our backup against criminal activity in our society and in our city. So I don't believe what you're saying. I think that the police chief would not say that.
So what were they supposed to do? What was that officer supposed to do?
Remember the one that fired the shot had his taser. He was tracing the guy down.
But he was too far. He was too far to reach with a taser.
Right,
so I ask you,
both were.
What was
There's no easy answer for this. But again, it's police. This is going to come down to police policy. And
all right. Well, listen, Scott or Anthony. Listen, we will see what happens, and we will see if you're right or not. We might agree to disagree a little bit, but I appreciate your phone call and I appreciate your perspective. 702-257-5. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Scott. Scott, you're next on the Vegas Take.
What's up, Scott?
I'm a retired police officer. I was involved in a shooting in Texas. So I see the officer, he did not do anything wrong, but I do agree that there's a possibility that he did do something to break that precinct's policy.
So can I ask you what do you think that could be as a former officer yourself?
I don't know Atlanta's policy,
What would you do, Scott? Scott, what would you do? You would have shot him. Yeah. Well, what else, Scott? Can I ask you another question? What are the other options in that situation? You have one officer who doesn't have a taser. You have another officer who's too far away to taser him. You have a suspect. What else? What else can you do?
That's it. Because then what? Here's the big question too. Did you guys see the size of him too? And the two cops were little.
Yes.
And then here's my other question. What if there would have been a black officer? Would we be talking about this?
I don't believe we would. No, I don't believe we would.
Everything is about race now. So what? Are we supposed to let the bad black criminals go when they commit a crime now?
Well, here's what I don't want. Here's what, sir.
Not just black, but criminals in general. It seems like criminals in general are getting a pass to be able to commit crimes, and the police officers are the ones that are guilty before proven innocent.
Here's what I don't want to see happen.
It's really terrifying for the average person that lives in the United States, a functional member of society who has a family or who has a job and relies on police, especially women. Women in general need security, and so police officers are very important to women. But it's very, very interesting. The entire country right now is getting to see what the world or what the United States could be like if police officers are basically neutered and not allowed to protect themselves as well as do their jobs.
Here's what I don't want to see happen. I don't want to see this family get paid. I don't want to see a lawsuit. I don't want to see in our society when a man is driving drunk, resists arrest, and throws punches at officers, steals a taser, points a taser at an officer, and shoots a taser, for a family to be rewarded for that type of horrendous behavior. So we're going to have to wait and see how this thing plays out. We're up against a break here. But, again, I am on the side of this police officer and those police officers. I think that police officer better get his job back, because this is an injustice, and it sets a horrible precedence that not only is it okay to resist arrest, but apparently it's okay to steal a taser from an officer, point it at an officer, and shoot an officer. You know what? Let's just let him go. Some of you people that are defending this guy's behavior, you are some of the dumbest people on the planet. You're the same idiots that are burning down buildings, swearing at police officers, throwing Molotov cocktails. You all are a bunch of dopes, and I'm sick of it. This is not the George Floyd situation. This is not the Ahmaud Arbery situation. This is a dumb criminal who was shot and killed, and as far as I'm concerned, he deserved it based on his own horrendous behavior.